Welcome back to the sanctuary of unvarnished truth. Welcome to whatever you need. In an industry obsessed with acquisition, acquiring fame, acquiring followers, acquiring power, there is something profoundly radical about the act of renunciation. Today, we are not discussing a new project or a red carpet triumph. We are dissecting a confession that has shattered the glossy facade of Turkish celebrity culture. When Emin Günenç, a man known for his calculated career moves and guarded privacy, stood before the world and declared, "I gave up everything to marry Ilsu," he was not speaking in hyperbole. He was narrating the climax of a silent war he has waged against expectation, tradition, and the crushing weight of his own public image. This is not a simple love story wrapped in a bow. It is a story of personal reconstruction, of a man who looked at the empire he built and realized it was a cage. It is a chronicle of the terrified nights, the closed doors, and the professional bridges burned in the name of a truth that only he and Ilse Demirci could see. Before we unravel the layers of this profound sacrifice, please subscribe to our channel. Press the like button if you believe in choices that cost everything but gain the world, and for those who wish to support independent, deep-dive storytelling, we warmly invite you to click the join button. Your membership is the pillar that holds up this platform. Now, let us walk the difficult path Emin Günenç chose to travel. It wasn't a random phrase tossed out for a quick headline. It wasn't a melodramatic soundbite designed to trend on social media. When Emin Günenç looked into the eyes of the public and said, "I gave up everything to marry Ilsu," those who truly know him felt the gravity of those words settle in the room like stone. Behind that sentence lay a deep, painful, and above all, irreversible story. He wasn't merely talking about romance, he was talking about the kind of tectonic shifts that alter the landscape of a life forever. For years, the public has perceived Emin as the archetype of the disciplined professional, a career-focused man, meticulous with his image, and hermetically sealed regarding his private life. He played the game, and he played it well. However, this time, he chose to break his silence from a vantage point he had never occupied before, that of a man who is no longer afraid of losing anything, because he has already secured the only thing that matters. According to sources deeply embedded in his inner circle, Emin Günenç's decision to marry Ilsu was not the impulsive act of a lovesick romantic. It wasn't a sudden burst of passion. On the contrary, it was the result of months, perhaps even years, of grueling reflection, internal warfare, and silent sacrifices that the cameras never captured. He knew that choosing Ilse meant losing other things, confides a source close to the actor. But he also knew that not choosing her meant losing himself. This was the crucible. Emin reportedly faced intense professional pressures, the heavy weight of family expectations, and prior commitments that simply could not coexist with the life he yearned to build with her. He was standing at a crossroads where the path of least resistance led to success, and the path of greatest resistance led to Ilse. And yet, against the advice of many, he decided to move forward into the storm. When Emin speaks of giving up everything, do not mistake it for exaggeration. According to those who accompanied him through this shadowed valley, the actor made decisions that few in his position would have the courage to even consider. He didn't just drift away from his old life. He dismantled it. He distanced himself from lucrative projects that demanded a nomadic, unstable existence, prioritizing proximity over prestige. He set ironclad boundaries with influential people and social environments that refused to accept or respect his relationship. He rigorously reevaluated his public image, shedding the persona of the available heartthrob to embrace the reality of a committed partner. He renounced a version of himself he no longer wanted to be. The version that pleased everyone else but left him hollow. "I understood that success without her was meaningless," he reportedly said in a private conversation that resonates powerfully today. It was the realization that the applause of millions is deafeningly silent when you return to an empty house. But who is this woman who inspired such a dismantling? Ilse did not enter Emin's life as a comfortable promise or a trophy. She arrived as an emotional challenge, a mirror that reflected not who he pretended to be, but who he actually was. According to intimate accounts, she was the first person who didn't try to mold him, change him, or leverage him. But neither did she idealize him. She saw the cracks in the armor, the fatigue behind the smile, and that disarmed him completely. With her he couldn't hide, a source states. And for the first time, he didn't want to. That was the breaking point. Emin understood that he didn't want a life full of applause but devoid of truth. He wanted a real life, messy and authentic, even if it meant sacrificing the privileges of stardom. With Ilse's arrival, the artificial equilibrium he had maintained for years shattered, and with it, the comfort of living a lie. For a long time, Emin tried to convince himself that he could maintain it all: the soaring career, the pristine public image, and the authentic relationship with Ilse. He tried to balance the equation. However, the math simply didn't work. He soon realized that this duality was unsustainable. Either you continue being who others expect you to be, or you start being who you truly are, he would reflect in private moments of doubt. It was then that the silent process of renunciations began, unseen by the tabloids but felt in every fiber of his being. For Emin, renouncing things didn't simply mean saying no to a script. It meant accepting that some friends would disappear from his life. It meant accepting that certain doors in the industry would close forever. It meant accepting that his path would no longer be paved with gold but with gravel. There were nights of crippling doubt, difficult conversations that stretched into the dawn, and moments where the fear of the future almost paralyzed him. But even in those terrors, Ilse remained a source of absolute stability. Not through demands or ultimatums, but through understanding. She never asked him to sacrifice his career. She never forced him to choose. And it was precisely this freedom, this lack of pressure, that compelled Emin to make the most radical decision of his life. When no one pressures you, you realize what you truly want, he reportedly said. Marrying her wasn't an escape route or a refuge from the world, it was an affirmation. It was the declaration that he was building a life where love wasn't a convenient add-on, but the very architectural center. The process leading up to their engagement was marked by profound, sometimes heavy conversations about the future, about the kind of family they wanted to create, and about the absolute necessity of living with integrity. Emin understood that marriage wasn't the end of the romance, but the beginning of a stage that demanded total honesty. And to be honest, he had to let go of everything that didn't fit within the frame of this new life. Thus was born the phrase that echoes so loudly today: I gave up everything to marry Ilse. The criticism came quickly, as it always does when someone defies the script. Not everyone celebrated his decision. Emin was questioned by colleagues, judged by industry insiders, and even warned by mentors. Some told him he was risking too much, that love didn't justify incinerating so many bridges. They called him naive, they called him reckless. But Emin had already taken a clear stance. He preferred to lose opportunities rather than lose the woman with whom he wanted to build his soul. If I have to start from scratch, I will, he reportedly said with a determination that frightened his detractors. But not without her. The relationship with Ilse wasn't designed to fit into other people's molds. It didn't seek the approval of the press or external validation from the fans. From the beginning, it was a determined, mature, and conscious love. According to those close to him, Emin had never spoken of marriage with such terrifying certainty. It didn't stem from wishful thinking or a fairy tale delusion, but from the deep conviction that he had found his life partner. Marrying her was the only decision I didn't hesitate about, he reportedly confessed. Everything else was negotiable. That clarity marked a turning point in his way of life. The new Emin Günenç is calmer, more grounded. He is less concerned with proving himself to the gallery, and more focused on living the moment. Marriage to Ilse didn't limit him, friends say. It freed him. He stopped chasing the ghost of expectations and began to build a reality. The story of Emin Günenç and Ilse is not a classic fairy tale where the prince and princess ride off into the sunset without a care. It is a story of difficult choices, necessary losses, and profound emotional courage. In a world where the cultural mandate is to have it all, the career, the money, the fame, the freedom, Emin chose something different. He chose someone. And perhaps that is why his confession resonates so powerfully with all of us. Because it recalls a simple, terrifying, and powerful truth: there are moments in life when you don't win by accumulating things. You win by giving up everything that isn't love. Emin Günenç may have fewer scripts on his desk today. He may have fewer friends in high places. But he wakes up every morning next to the truth he chose. He dismantled the life that was designed for him to build the life that belonged to him. And in the end, that is the only success that matters. Thank you for joining us for this emotional journey into the heart of a man who risked it all. This has been a special presentation by Whatever You Need. If this story of sacrifice and redemption touched you, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. And for those who want to be part of our inner circle and support high-quality storytelling, the join button is waiting for you. Until next time, remember, sometimes, to find yourself, you have to lose everything else. Goodbye.